noise down here. A very frosty Monday morning. It feels much colder, but apparently I'm being told by my car that it's -3 outside, which is 27 on the American scale, which of course is really warm for those of you who are suffering in the east. For those of us who live on the west coast, that's pretty darn cold for us. And so I've woken up with a bit of a cold in my nose, so if I sound a bit bunged up, that's why. Not sure what that's about, but that needs to go away. I didn't want a cold, thank you very much indeed. So it's a pretty day. There's not a lot of cloud in the sky, which is probably why it feels so cold. And sun's beginning to break through, which means that hopefully some of this ice on the road will be going soon. Actually, luckily, most of the way from this point onwards that I go is a major road, so all the traffic going to work this morning will have warmed up the road sufficiently. So I'm not sort of overly worried about black ice on the way, just by virtue of the fact that the roads, I'm just looking at them, the sort of turn-off places are a bit icy, but the actual road itself looks pretty good. So we'll still keep an eye out on it, obviously, but I'm looking at the car parks and so forth. They're all still icy and not pleasant. I think it would be difficult walking on some of them because it looks like they got wet and icy, which is difficult to tell when you're walking on it. Is it wet or is it icy? The one way you find out normally is when you're landed on your backside on the on the car park going, I guess that was icy. Yeah. And of course I've got the wrong shoes on for that sort of behavior, but I'll worry about that when I get the other end. How to take that very carefully. It's known as the ice shuffle, I think. You know, never take your feet off the ground to redistribute your weight, sort of thing. You shuffle rather than walk. I think that's what somebody told me. I can never remember. Anyway, it was a busy day yesterday. I was trying to get stuff done and I didn't seem to get very much done at all. And and then I couldn't sleep properly. All this is undoubtedly residual from the weekend of the emotion and then the Christmas stuff, getting tired. So I'm just going to take my body and look after it a bit for the next couple of days, give it plenty of rest and not push it too much in either direction, and try and keep out of emotional turmoil wherever I can. And I find that really works. If ever you have a time where you've got a lot of stuff that's hit you or is hitting you, it's a really good idea to sort of lie low. When I say lie low, but just don't go looking for more trouble. Because the chances are, if you've been through an emotional turmoil or going through one, or are particularly tired because you've been very busy doing something over and above the normal, then the chances are that your patience level and your politeness level will probably be affected. So the way to sort of handle that is to, you know, just don't go looking for for more trouble than you've already got. And if you find yourself snapping at somebody, have the good grace to apologize for it and explain I'm sorry, I think I'm overtired because of last weekend or whatever it is that's creating this. It doesn't make it better, and it doesn't make it that they should forgive you for being rude or snappy or whatever it is, but it does say, this is not about you, I understand this is my stuff today. And so I really encourage you to do that if you can. We had a really interesting weekend of broadcasting as well, and thanks to Ryan, who was good enough to open up the Dear Mama Sal broadcast on Saturday night when I wasn't available, and I really appreciate that, Ryan. I'm sure that everybody was glad you thought of that. So it's one of the things we love about you, Ryan. You think do that, and the same with Nana's normally there to help as well, so I really appreciate that. And just so those of you who may not have been to the broadcast know that on the broadcast that we do on Tinychat, particularly, people are inclined to go in there and chat when they want to, knowing that the people who will join them are probably Dear Mama Sal people, and that means they've got somebody they can talk to. And I quite often actually will go to check up on one of my sites and see that there are people there already. And I'm going, oh, that's interesting. Hello there. And what they're doing is they're using it as a meeting place if they want to chat. So I think that's great. Anyway, so this weekend we had a really interesting situation that happens to a lot of us, and it doesn't matter whether it's with a friend or with a husband or with a family member. This happens. And I just was so grateful to the viewer who was brave enough to talk about it, and thereby will be able to help a lot of people. And that's one of the things I always say, you know, when you are brave enough to talk about something, you have no idea how many people you help. And it's not just the people who write and say so on, you know, under the vlog. It is the people who heard it and probably will never comment on a vlog. And so the ripple effect of these questions that you ask and these situations that you tell me about, you just have to know how many people you help. And it's very, very important for you to know. Okay, so the situation, it was pretty understandable. In this case, it was a husband and wife, where the husband is in some level of depression, and the wife is trying to cope with that. Now, what a lot of people don't know, that if you're living in a house with somebody in depression, it is extremely wearing on the person who doesn't have it. Because all the time they're dealing with somebody who's not functioning normally. Now, in this case, the situation was that the husband sits on the couch all day long, watching television and playing video games. And eating. And the wife was going stark staring bonkers is what I want to say, but it not literally, because of what they needed to get done. And I'm not going to go into why, because I don't want to identify the person, but she, you know, what she needed was this person to be part of the family. You know, get up and do something, really was what she was desperate for. And then she was getting more and more resentful of this person who was sitting and doing nothing and expecting her to do everything. And I totally understood where she was coming from. I'd be pretty frustrated by it myself, and I'm certain there are a lot of you out there who either are in that situation or who have been in that situation. So she kept saying to us, you know, I don't know what else to do. I've tried love, I've tried nagging, I've tried everything, and he's not doing anything. And he won't go and get help. So there's part of me that goes, you know, this person sitting on the couch has got the best of both worlds, right? They get to sit and do nothing all day long. Plus they don't bother to go and get psychological help for that. And so their excuse for everything is, I'm depressed. Well, hello. Again, I would remind everybody that some of the greatest world names were depressed people. Yeah, like Churchill and the whole list of them. They were depressed people, and like all depressed people under medication, they took medication. And after that, I mean, the medication is purely to get the brain functioning again to some degree. And after that, you know, you need to get up and start doing stuff. You need to start making your brain work. It's you know, the pills are not going to make your brain work. So if you're sitting on the couch waiting for your brain to work, it's not going to happen. You need to do something. You need to start retraining your brain. And yet it always amazes me that people in depression, you know, don't have enough ability to do anything, but do have enough mental alacrity, if you like, to be able to sit playing video games all day long, which requires all sorts of thinking skills. And they don't see that that's a double standard at all. My attitude is, if your brain is working well enough to play video games, then you're well enough to be doing things to do your fair share around the house or whatever. So anyway, what do you tell this person who's sitting in this catch-22 where they've got this person in their life that needs to be pulling more weight but are not, and she's tried everything and it's getting her nowhere? And what I said to her was, you need to go and get therapy. And she said, what? I said, you're the one that needs therapy. Because if you are driving yourself to this level, if you are getting this frustrated, if you are this angry with the situation and not putting down any very strong boundaries, then you're the one that needs some help now. You need the help to be able to deal with this. And it was really interesting because one of the viewers was very quick off the mark of this one, because they'd actually been there, done that, and they were screaming, you're a codependent, and you need help. And so one of the things that I said, because I'm aware that not everybody has the ability to go and get psychological help, for those of you who need some support in that area, most of the 12-step programs do a codependent program called CODA, C-O-D-A. And if you look it up on Google, you'll probably find where they have meetings near you. And I really recommend, if you have this problem where you're not dealing well with a situation in your home and it's frustrating you and making you angry and you can't get any change out of this other person, then you may want to have a look at Coda. Or the other thing is that if you are in a relationship and you're trying to do more and more to improve the relationship and it's not happening, you know, make sure that you get some sort of support, some help. But the interesting reaction was, wow, she hadn't realized that at this stage, if it's got to this stage, that in fact she is the one that needs help. In this relationship. Because she's going to need to have help to show her how she's being manipulated. And the funny thing is, she can feel she's being manipulated because she's getting angry and resentful. There's pretty good signs that something's going on here, that somebody's not playing fair. And we've had a couple of viewers over the last year who've had issues like this. For one of them, it was a family member living in the house, and you know, more often it's a husband and wife situation. But you know, it's really important for us not to abuse the people who care for us. And I say abuse because really it's taking them for granted. And I've always said that if I'm being asked to give more than 50% in a relationship, you know, it's too much. It's too much. It should be an equal partnership. So I think it's really important for us to look at what's going on and what am I doing about it. And from my experience, getting angry and resentful really doesn't help. I do it, don't get me wrong, I'm human. I get frustrated and I get resentful and I get angry just like the rest of the world. But quite honestly, it doesn't necessarily do a whole lot. If I quote my dear friend Marnie, one of the things that she always says, be firm, be fair, and be friendly. In other words, say what is wrong, say it in a firm way, that this behavior is not acceptable. Be fair. This is, I'd like to hear your side of the story, would be fair. And then be friendly in whatever you want to say next. In other words, you know, this is the behavior I'd like to see, and these are the consequences if I don't see them. And by the way, never ever threaten consequences that you're not prepared to follow up on. In other words, if you're dealing with a teenage son, for example, don't say to them, and if you don't tidy up your room by Tuesday, you know, I'm going to throw all your clothes out, and then not do it. Because that's what most people do, is they threaten things that the other person just laughs at. You go, yeah, right, she's not going to throw all my clothes out. Or if you say, you know, this, that, and the other, or else I'm going to leave you, and you don't, then guess what? So be very careful. And the same thing, I know there's some of you out there that have used the line, I brought you into this world and I can take you out. You know, those sort of things, quite honestly, get to be things that people just roll their eyes at because, you know, they're not going to do it. Now, if you say, if your room isn't tidy by Tuesday, I'm going to throw your clothes away. And you clear the room on Tuesday, open up the garbage can and throw the clothes in there. And give a very fair reality check, I think that's firm, fair and friendly. You gave them adequate warning and they just didn't believe you. That's their problem, not yours. So I guess this is a double-edged sword today, which is number one, be aware of where you're being codependent to a situation, and number two, how much do you keep your word? In other words, when you do these threats, if they are vain threats, ones without any muscle behind them, what's the point? What is the point? Boundaries are really important parts of our lives. You know, you do not get to treat me this way is the boundary. You know, if you want a hotel and you want to sit around and do nothing all day long, or the bare minimum in this relationship, that's your right. But that doesn't mean you get to stay here. You know, go find somewhere else to do that. Because I can get somebody paying rent in your room for that amount of money. You know, for that amount of waste of effort. You know, somebody who's not costing me money, somebody who's giving me money. Much better arrangement for some people. Oh, they filled in the hole in the car park. That's wonderful. So, it's going to be Tuesday by the time some of you watch this, or late Monday night, so I just hope you have had, easy for me to say, I've had a wonderful day. It is now -2, so no great advancement there, -28. I thought it might warm up a bit on my way to work, but apparently not. It's chilly. I'm very grateful for the fact that I live and work in a warm building. And I try and make sure I remember that when I'm busy moaning about the weather or whatever. I keep reminding myself I'm not homeless. Oh rats, look at that. Somebody's taken my parking space. How dare they? I've got to park on the other side of the car park. The cheek of it. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, I'm off to work. Bye-bye for now.